Hello, my wonderful, beautiful friends. Guys, welcome back to r/entitled people, where people think they can get whatever they want and do whatever they want because they're special. And in this episode, a Karen and her family trespass onto OP's private property to steal, and she has the audacity to get mad when OP calls police. Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. Hit subscribe if you haven't, and as always, you can send or link your stories to this email right here. Let's dive in. So I work in a coffee shop, and on this day, I had a cold. Since sick days for hourly workers don't really exist in this country, I'm at work with a cold and an apron pocket full of cough drops. Thinking nothing of it, I pop a cough drop in while I'm sweeping the cafe, and a little girl sees me do this. Apparently she's very upset that I have candy and she doesn't, which I'm not aware of at first because I tune out most customer conversations. That's when the mom comes up to me and she's a frickin' Karen. The woman taps me on the shoulder and says, "Hi, do you think my daughter can have a piece of candy? We're teaching her about sharing, and she knows how important it is to bring treats for everyone. So could you please share?" Hearing that, I say, what? She says, "The candy in your pocket. I saw you put one in your mouth, and I see you have enough to share, and she really wants a piece." I tell her, "Ma'am, it's a cough drop. They're like the menthol blue death flavor." The woman just looks at me and says, "Sharing is very important." Now at this point I'm thinking, fine, you nutball. Give a toddler a menthol eucalyptus cough drop and see where that gets you. Now of course I don't say that because I'm poor and I do need a job. So I give her the cough drop and she walks off and gives it to her kid, who immediately spits it on the floor because she hates the nasty flavor. And the mom comes rushing back to me saying, "I told her it would be cherry flavored. Don't you have cherry?" I tell her, "No, I told you I only have the blue death flavor." The mom says, "Well, she's complaining that what you gave her is gross, so go behind the counter and give me a cake pop instead." I tell her, "Sure thing, I'm just gonna ring you up right over here." And that's when she says, Whoa, I didn't say anything about paying. Sharing." I tell her I did share. I gave her exactly what I have. I don't own these cake pops in the store, so I can't share those with her. So are you gonna buy the cake pop or not? The woman didn't, and they left soon after. Now that's not the craziest, but she's still an entitled loon. Okay, so teaching kids to share is one thing, but I love how the woman totally doesn't draw a line there saying, "But you can only share when the other person agrees to share." Or, never take candy from strangers, guys. Like, what happened to that? Like, I read all these stories about parents demanding complete strangers give their goblins a sip of this or share their food, and I'm always thinking, yuck. Seriously, guys, I'm always shocked listening to parents asking complete strangers to share their yummy, fruity-looking drink with their 5-year-old. Like, teach your kids about germs and poison, Karen. Okay, so this happened years ago. We had a new coworker come in around the Christmas season, and he's a really sweet and genuine guy. He spent a ton of time getting to know all of us, and he would share his knowledge while still eager to learn. He's just a good person who made an authentic effort to get to know us. So for Christmas, he took the time to write out personalized Christmas cards to each of us in the department. There were about 70 of us. Each card had a personalized handwritten message. He put so much care into this, guys. And on top of that, he gifted everyone in our department, 10 people, their own $10 gift card to the local coffee house inside the office building. He didn't have to do any of this, and most of us were grateful. Most of us. Well, our one coworker, who's a petulant child, decides to pipe up during our coworker's gift giving and tell him that he should have gotten gift cards to a coffee place that she uses outside of work. How it should have been like Starbucks or something. Now, to recap, he wrote a personalized card, handwritten, hand-delivered with a free coffee, none of which was expected, and this bitch goes ahead and complains that he should have gotten her a better gift card, like some people. Some people is right, guys. Like, how the heck can you be so ungrateful over getting something for free? For free! Especially around the Christmas season when it's the thought that counts. But hey, at least she made it clear who she is and what kind of person she is, right? Okay, so my husband and I don't want kids. My mother-in-law, however, is really big into family in the traditional sense. She's been pushy with us about having kids since we got married. Literally the week after we got engaged, she starts asking and begging for us to pop a few out. Now, my husband has always changed the subject, and he's even told her that it's really none of her business. But every time we see her, she has to ask. Everything we do is built around the idea of us having kids. 3 years into our marriage, my husband said we might not even have kids, and mother-in-law would not hear it. She lost it, and she demanded that we have kids for her. At year 4, husband had a vasectomy, and I had my tubes tied. So this weekend, we were all at their home enjoying some barbecue and drinks and everything. When I get up to grab a beer, mother-in-law asked me if maybe I should drink water instead because wink wink, nudge nudge, you never know if you're pregnant. Hearing her say that, I got really annoyed and said, there's really no chance. At that, mother-in-law all wide grin said, oh come on. It's time for you two to finally get serious. It's been what? Almost 5 years of being married, and you haven't given me any grandchildren yet? Put down the beer and tell us when we can finally expect you two to finally make your family official. I say to her, we've been official for 5 years now, mother-in-law, and drank the beer. Husband laughs with me, and mother-in-law gets even more annoyed, and she says, well, you won't be a real Robinson, fake name, until you bless us with babies. That's when husband said, Mom, enough. And mother-in-law pushed again, telling us that we have to have kids for her to play with. Husband repeated that he's had enough. After about 15 more minutes of this entitled mother-in-law going on, I finally snapped and said, hey, your son got snipped. I had my tubes tied. We're not having kids. You need to stop bringing this up. Period. Well, I thought I started World War III. She starts crying and stormed off, and my family looked at us with disgust and stormed off after her. We left and the party kind of ended, and guess what? The social media bullcrap started shortly after. There were vague posts and links about how motherhood is a woman's greatest calling, with articles being shared left and right about how unhappy women are who choose not to have kids, etc. Mother-in-law even posted some meme that said, I guess I wasn't a good enough mother and won't be graduating to grandmother. It got obnoxious to the point that I just muted all of them. My mother-in-law finally calls me this morning and told me that she was willing to put all of this behind us if husband and I come over and listen to her reasons of why we really need to have kids. I told her no, that we're really tired of her pushing this on us, and she said, well then, I guess you two aren't prepared to be real Robinsons then. I'd like a refund for what we paid for the wedding. Now I want to note that it wasn't that much, it was like $400 for the rehearsal dinner. I hung up on her. When recounting this to my friends, a few of them did say that I was the a-hole here for dropping it like that. But mother-in-law is super entitled, and she was never gonna drop it if I didn't finally make a serious direct comment about it. So am I the a-hole in this situation? Guys, OP is definitely not the a-hole here, and the fact that mother-in-law doesn't see OP as a real family or a real Robinson because she's choosing not to have kids is so selfish and entitled on her part. Like, having kids isn't for everyone, and some people just don't want to have kids at all, and people have to realize that it's okay, it's 100% fine, and it's no one else's business to push it on them. So yeah, mother-in-law is the total a-hole in this situation, and also for demanding a refund on the money she contributed to the wedding. Yikes. So guys, let me know what you would do if you were in OP shoes. So this happened in 2015, so pre-pandemic. The day before Easter, my wife and I helped our kids make some colored eggs. Some we dyed, some we painted, and others were just plastic with candy, but my kids doodled little faces on them for fun. On Easter morning, my wife and I went to my parents' house because they live on the edge of the city, right next to some woods, and they've got a good 2-acre property with a few scattered apple trees, a garden, a play structure for the kids, and some decent-sized bushes. Perfect for hiding the eggs in. We spent a good hour in the morning placing the eggs in a clever but also easy to find places for the kids. We also invited a friend of my wife, who is a single mom with a little girl, to join in, and she was overjoyed we invited her. We took a little break to have a coffee and chat after hiding the eggs, as we planned to go out looking for them at noon, since it was a bit chilly that morning. But my mom suddenly came to us and said that there was a lady with kids that she hadn't seen before hunting for eggs in the backyard. Our backyard. Her kids were using the baskets that we'd set aside for our own egg hunt. They'd been left sitting in the garden for when the hunt was to start, and those thieving little brats just took them without a care. I told my wife to pull out her phone and start recording just in case. Now, my wife and I both dealt with entitled people long before seeing these stories, so having video evidence can really help. We then went outside and I demanded to know just what the heck this woman was thinking. The Karen mom was startled when I called out to her. I told her she was trespassing on private property and she was basically stealing from us. The woman then got mad at us when I told her to put the eggs back as she wasn't invited. Now, since this was 7 years ago, I'll have to paraphrase most of it as my memory can be pretty garbage at times. I basically said to her, "Hey, what do you think you're doing here? This is private property, you're trespassing." That's when Karen says, "Ugh, don't sneak up on me. What's wrong with you?" I say to her, "What's wrong with me? You're trespassing on private property, and you're letting your kids steal our eggs." By this point, her 2 crotch goblins had run to hide behind her, and they were blowing raspberries at me. I say to the kids, "Hey, give those eggs back, they're not yours." And Karen screams at me and says, "What is wrong with you? They are little kids. Why are you doing this to kids? They're just eggs. Go to the store and get more." I tell her my family colored and painted those eggs all day yesterday, and you will give them back, or so help me. And before I could finish, the woman actually reaches out and slaps me across the face, saying I was being disrespectful to her and her kids. It was at that point she saw the look of anger on my face, and I'm pretty sure she realized that she badly effed up because she starts backing away. I tell her, "Hey, last chance, return the eggs now." And she says, "No. Just let my kids have them." I was done with this crap, and I turned to tell my family to just call the police. And that's when Karen starts shouting at me that we're being petty, and we can't call the police over some stupid eggs. My dad actually went and blocked the side gate, not allowing the woman to leave, which is how Karen got in. When we refused to let her leave, she just starts screaming hysterically that we were illegally detaining her and that she'll have us jailed. The police arrive in about 10 minutes, and by that time, Karen had huddled with her kids on the bench by the garden. My wife showed the cops the video of Karen slapping me, and they quickly told her that she was under arrest and forced her kids to give back the eggs and the baskets. The Karen starts screaming that it's not fair and that she just wanted a happy Easter for her kids. The little crotch goblins didn't make things easy for police, as they tried to hit them for arresting their mom. We made a few statements, and the police carted off the Karen and her family. We all re-hid the eggs. The kids were all super upset that someone tried to steal their eggs too, and it took some work to calm them down. But they still got their Easter egg hunt and all went well. The woman pled guilty to trespassing and theft, and she got a month in jail and a fine, and it's become a funny story that we like to share with people once in a while. Guys, I love the stories where entitled people trespass on other people's properties and then act like they're being wronged when the police are called. Like, I'm still shaking my head that that woman thought it was okay to go on someone's private property and let her kids do an Easter egg hunt. This happened in the early 2000s. I was living the single mom life with my 3 older kids. I was working full-time evening shift, and my best friend would keep the kids for me. It was early fall and still mowing weather, and I would always fill my lawnmower up and kept a 3-gallon gas can full under my porch. My neighbors had 2 teens, a boy and a girl, that liked to pick on the smaller kids in my neighborhood. I chased them out of my yard a few times when I'd caught them trying to get into my shed. Their dad had traded for them a 4-wheeler that they would constantly be on. And after they got it, my gas can would always mysteriously go empty all the time, whenever I needed to refuel. It didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out what was happening to it. Well, enough was enough. I decided to go out and purchase an identical gas can. I then filled it with about 2.5 gallons of water, and then added half a gallon of gas. You know, to give it that fuel smell. I then locked the real one away and put the bogus one under my porch, and then waited. Within a couple of days, the brats were throwing a massive fit because their 4-wheeler was toast. And yeah, it did suck to be them. But that wasn't the end of it. As I said, these little monsters enjoyed destroying people's property. One of their favorite pastimes was tearing up Halloween decorations and smashing pumpkins. So that year, I bought close to 20 pumpkins that would only get smashed on the street in front of my house. My kids were devastated. The neighbor kids loved tearing up the stuffed scarecrow on the next door neighbor's porch, so I managed to get together some old worn overalls, a straw hat, a ratty looking long sleeve button up shirt, and then I stuffed it and set it on my porch Halloween day. I then asked my best friend to take my kids trick-or-treating because I had a treat for the teen monsters and their friends. I waited until dark, shut off the porch light, and brought in the scarecrow, and then put on the clothes and hat, painted my face, and then went back outside in the chair with a huge bowl of candy and a sign that said, "Take one, please." My best friend waited until I was settled, turned the porch light off, and left with my kids. I had a few little Supermans, princesses, ghosts, and clowns come up, and yeah, they would grab more than one, but not overly much. So about half an hour into my evening, I hear the brats coming up the road. They immediately start smashing the pumpkins and yanking down my decorations. 3 of them ran up on my porch. One grabbed the bowl as the other 2 went to grab the poor scarecrow to rip up. Only the scarecrow, me, suddenly sat up with the deepest, harshest, loud growl and grabbed one of the boys closest to me. Now, I've never seen people actually fly before, but they were screaming like nobody's business, running down the street. A cop car pulls up less than a minute later. The cop tells me that he's been getting complaints about these kids and he was trying to catch them in the act. But he'd seen the entire exchange on my porch, and he couldn't quit laughing. I didn't have much of a problem after that, though I did kind of let it slip that my house was haunted though. They did move within the next month or so, after the boy got arrested for breaking into someone's house up the street. Yeah, talk about nightmare neighbors, guys. And I love how OP dressed up as a scarecrow and scared the crap out of those kids. But unfortunately, that little lesson wasn't enough to stop the kid from breaking into a house not long after. And listen guys, I don't want to tell those parents that they should be better parents, but someone's gotta do something or those kids are gonna end up in trouble a lot. Alright, so welcome to one of the rather weirder posts. So I'm the male part of a 2 female, 1 male triad relationship. For some background, Sarah and I got together 8 years ago, and Becca, her lifelong friend, expressed feelings to Sarah. They then had a conversation and then approached me. Becca expressed liking both of us, and we went on a handful of dates to see if it would actually work, and it actually felt completely natural. So fast forward 5 years, and we're all married. All of our families were happy and supportive, and remain so today. Okay, so now on to the story. Yesterday evening, the 3 of us were out to dinner at a shack of pizza. There were quite a few people there, so they ended up seating a family directly across from us. When they were seated, our seating arrangements were myself and Becca on one side, and Sarah on the other. While waiting for pizza to arrive, both Becca and Sarah got up to use the restroom, and I was left at the table alone. As they left, Becca kissed me, and when they returned, Sarah took the seat next to me, kissing me as she sat down. Now, neither kiss was anything wild. It was literally the peck you'd give your own mother. So immediately after Sarah kissed me, I hear the screech of an "oh my god" and look over. I see the entitled mother, a Karen, meeting the stereotype in every way, except for the oversized sunglasses as it was dark outside. So after making contact, she starts squealing how we were sinners and those whores were corrupting her children. Now her kids look to be around the age of 5, 2 little girls. I say to her, "Oh, I apologize ma'am, we won't show any form of PDA again." The Karen says, "No, you can't do this. You need to leave now." Sarah says, "Do what? We're just trying to enjoy dinner as a family," clearly leaning in to show the fact that we are in fact a throuple. The Karen says, "No one is talking to you." She then turns to me and screeches that we need to leave now, and she starts screaming for a manager. Of course, that's when the manager approaches to see what's going on. The manager says, "What seems to be the problem here, ma'am?" She screams, "These sinners are hanging all over each other in gross sexual ways, trying to corrupt my kids." That's when all 3 of us laughed, and the manager says, "Sorry, ma'am, what's going on?" The Karen then repeats herself and says, "These 3 scumbags are making out and they're feeling each other up at a family restaurant, and it's disgusting. You should call police." We were all snickering at this point, and Becca leans in and kissed Sarah on the cheek, and then said, "I don't see what the problem is if I kiss my wife. Everyone kisses their spouse in public." I say to her, "Do you have an issue, ma'am?" The Karen shrieks and says, "Don't lie. I know what you're doing. Do your parents know that you're selling yourselves?" The manager tries to calm her down at this point and politely tries to tell Karen to leave. And I say, "You think I can afford to pay for these 2 lovely ladies for a whole night, but would only take them to a pizza shack?" That's when the woman lunges and slaps me and then shrieks, "How dare you? Who's your mother?" The manager says, "Ma'am, if you don't leave right now, we're gonna have to call the police." She then says, "Good. Then maybe these perverts will be arrested for doing this in front of my children." Now realizing that this was the hill she had chosen to die on, I looked to the manager and said, "I'm so sorry you're going through this. Would you mind if we move to another table?" The manager says, "No problem, go right ahead and grab any table over there." He points to a section that's empty. Meanwhile, the woman screaming obscenities and homophobic slurs at us. Sitting at our new table, I can see that the woman's screaming, and the manager's trying to get her out, and I notice no one but Karen can see us. I then whisper to Sarah and Becca my little plan, and they laugh and we go for it. Becca and Sarah lean across the table and give each other a kiss. And then they both lean over towards me, and I kiss them each quickly. And that's when the woman goes complete nuclear. She grabs a pitcher off her table and hurls it in our direction, falling flat by about 15 feet, and that's when 2 officers walk in. They handcuff her, and as they're taking her out of the restaurant, she's screaming about the perverts and sexual deviants and how they should be arrested and not her. The manager did end up comping our meal and refusing to let us pay. Guys, when I read stories like this where parents go completely crazy at people and also have their kids with them, it truly breaks my heart that the kids have to see something like this. Like, lady, if you don't like what you're seeing and don't want your kids to see it, the easiest thing to do in that situation is ask to be moved to another table. It's as simple as that. But instead, on this day, this Karen chose to go to war against OP. And she ends up in the back of a paddy wagon. But hey, that's r/entitled people, guys. They aren't moving, because why should they move when other people can move instead? Guys, I hope you enjoyed today's stories. If you did, hit that like button, and if you're not subscribed, hit subscribe so you don't miss these crazy stories. And if you missed the last episode on the channel, I'll link it right here. A Karen calls 911 accusing OP of kidnapping his best friend, because his best friend is a different skin color. It's such a crazy story, so go check it out if you haven't, and myself and Stevie Boy will see you guys in the next one. We love you.